And just a reminder to everybody, put your questions into the Q&A, use chat to get hold of me doing tech support. Scott, over to you.
Awesome. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Scott Rogowski. I'm the director of the Finance Center for Northern California SBDC, Small Business Development Center Network. We bring this to you every, our loan disaster updates for small businesses and organizations every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And happy for everyone. Today's Friday. I'm excited it's Friday. So we do this from 10:30 to 12, or as long as we can answer all your questions. If we get through them, great. Before 12, we put some more time back in your day. If we don't, then we just go till 12. And this is our 35th session. So what that means is we've almost been doing this for a total of 3 months. Monday will be 36, so that'll be exactly 3 months, and or 12 weeks. Yeah. So today is June 26th, and we are all in this together. So we are Northern California SBDC. We cover the 36 most northern counties in the state. We go from the Oregon border down the coast to Santa Cruz. We cover all 9 counties of the Bay Area. We go southeast to Stockton, then back up through the Nevada border and the Oregon border. So we are supported, meaning we are funded by SBA, Small Business Administration. Lucky for us, we have we have our district director from the Sacramento district office, Heather Lutzy, on the call. She covers the northeastern part of the state. And then we also have Noah Brode from the San Francisco district office, and he covers like the 9 counties and then Santa Cruz and all the way to the Oregon border on the coast. So we have both of them here today, so we're thankful for that. And then we're also funded by the state of California, the Governor's Office of Economic Development, which is called GoBiz. And because of this funding, we come to you and organizations, small business owners, organizations at no cost. We offer no cost one-on-one confidential advising. So we don't share your information with anybody. It's 100% confidential. And we also offer webinars such as these, educational seminars around e-commerce and HR law and manufacturing, or whatever is privy to help small businesses start and grow and sell. We also offer those mostly at no cost. So we're the Finance Center. I'm the director, and then Sunita Maharaj, she's our associate director for the Finance Center. She's on the call as well. She's going to answer questions as I go through this. A little bit of a brief update of what's going on. And at the Finance Center, so SBDC pre-COVID, we did everything for loans. The Finance Center would help you kind of package your financials and help you get a startup or an expansion or buy a building or maybe sell or buy a business. But during COVID, we've had to become experts on the EIDL Economic Injury Disaster Loan, the PPP, which is a Paycheck Protection Program, and then the Main Street Program, which is launching, and then any other direct loan funds, whether it be at the city of Sacramento or at Santa Clara County or some sort of statewide California Rebuilding Direct Fund, which is some attorneys are trying to put together right now as we speak. So we just try to figure out everything that we can do for you at no cost and help be the expert to help you find the capital that you need to either sustain, save, or grow, or maybe start or buy a business at this time. So yeah, and we can do that for you all at no cost. So our agenda, so this is the same presentation that we gave on Wednesday. I didn't change it. We're not going to go over any of the easy stuff, easy form. We're not going to go over the reduction. We're not going to go over any of that because it's all specific to you as a business owner, and everybody has their own scenario. So we're going to go over disclaimer. We're going to go over the Flexibility Act changes on June 5th. We're going to go over the Main Street launch. There's actually, I don't think it's called launch. I think it's called Main Street Lending Program. My bad. It's funny because there's a company called Main Street Launch, but you don't need to know that. All right, so there's new loans in 5 counties from 1,000 to 150,000. Those are the counties that Sunita and I and Heather too also pretty much spend kind of most of our time in, as far as working with business owners and helping them get capital. There's a direct loan fund that we know about, so we're going to tell you about that. Well, we'll get to SBA update. We have 2 SBA representatives on the phone, so that's exciting. And then we'll go to Q&A. So a disclaimer is things are changing all the time. The information was correct when the presentation was put together. Things are changing all the time, so we appreciate your patience. EIDL is back open, which is amazing and exciting. And sure, I received some updated numbers, but I'm not going to spoil that. I'm going to let Heather and Noah talk about the updated numbers about how many loans have been done from EIDL, how many EIDL advances have been done, and all the great stuff that's happening, since they opened it back up and from the time that they had it shut down. So there is still money available for PPP, only until June 30th. June 30th is the last day that you can apply for PPP as we speak today, unless they change it over the weekend or Monday, I'm not sure. But June 30th is the last day to get a PPP loan. We ask that you don't hesitate to apply for PPP or EIDL, regardless of what you think or don't think you're going to get qualified for, or if you think somebody told you, hey, there's no way you're going to get approved, or you shouldn't apply. You can't do PUA and PPP and EIDL, and they're all wrong. So nobody really knows. Just apply. Please apply. Don't hesitate. You'll find out if you're declined or not declined. If you're declined or approved. We are not privy to lenders coming forward Main Street because they haven't had any yet. I mean, I've been talking to some local banks. A couple of them like it. A couple of them don't like it, but it's still super new. So we're just gonna go over it a little bit. So PPP Flexibility Act, this is what came out on June 5th. If you received a loan before June 5th, you had a 2-year loan at 1%. After June 5th, you're automatically given a 5-year loan at 1%. So if you got funded before June 5th and you want a 5-year loan, you just need to go back to your bank, have a really nice conversation with them, a little bit of negotiation, and somehow document it that they agree to give you a 5-year loan instead of a 2-year loan. And we don't have any really examples of what that looks like, but we can help you kind of craft something to go talk to the lender about. So that's one of the biggest changes in the PPP. Also, so all this changed on June 5th. It went from 2 to 5. Also, the covered period extended to 24 weeks if you choose 24 weeks, or 12/31, whichever comes first. But 12/31 is not going to come first because the PPP is not going to be extended potentially past June 30th. But if it was, then that date would mean something. But you can choose between 8 weeks or 24 weeks. So they changed the split. Used to be 75-25. You used to have to spend 75% or more on payroll. Now it's 60% on payroll or more. So 60% instead of 75. For non-payroll costs or expenses, you used to be able to spend a maximum of 25. Now the maximum is 40. So it's a 60-40 instead of a 75-25. The 75-25 is gone. Just throw it away, put it in the corner. It's no longer. The 60-40 is the brand new split. So 60 is payroll costs. We've been over that several different times. The 40% is the rent. If you don't own your building, if you own your building, it's the interest mortgage payment, and then it's the utilities. So it's up to 40%. So payroll tax can be deferred even if you receive the PPP. Another update. The other update is whatever FTE number you had before February 15th, you had to get to that before June 30th. So they extended that to December 31st. Now, whatever you had before February 15th, you have all the way from now until December 31st to get back up to your full FTE. And then they also extended the loan payment deferral timeline. So it used to be 6 months for everybody for PPP. It's still 11 months for the EIDL, but it used to be 6 months for PPP. But now they extended it 10 months after your chosen covered period. So if you choose 8 weeks, it's 10 months after that, so about a year. And if it's 24 weeks, it's about 10 months after. It's 10 months after that, which is about 16 months. So what we figured, Sunita and I, all by ourselves, is that we shouldn't be stressing, and neither should you as a business owner, to try to fill out this calculated application from PPP yet, because technically they extended the deferred payment. So guess what? A lender lend the money to you. SBA guaranteed it. They let the government or treasury or whoever said you get 10 months after your chosen covered period. So that means you technically don't have to start putting all your paperwork together like really, really last minute until the first quarter of next year. So we have a lot of time. We're not going to go over the application today, and we may not go over it until another month or two, because we're feeling that they're going to change it. They're going to create these IFRs, which is called an internal final rule. Actually, that means law. They should just say law. I don't know why they have to say IFR, but that's me. Okay, so we feel that we don't have to rush to help you get your paperwork together to ask for forgivability until maybe Q4 this year, like October to December, or January to March of next year. So we're just going to kind of take our time, be very methodical about this, and help you collect your paperwork. All right, cool. That's PPP. EIDL, I didn't have a slide on EIDL, but let me just go back so you don't read this. So EIDL is, it did reopen. Everything's kind of the same. It's 3.75% for 30 years for for-profits, 2.75% for 30 years for nonprofits. You don't have to make your first payment until the first of the 12th month, and the maximum that you can get is $2 million. And I also heard that you need collateral for anything over $25,000, unless I think that's wrong. Okay, that's good.
That's accurate. And then you only need a personal guarantee on those loans if it's a loan larger than $200,000.
Okay, that's cool. I didn't know that. Okay,
yeah.
So
yeah.
Okay, that's good. So the PPP, unlike the EIDL, you don't need a personal guarantee, and the PPP and the EIDL, there's no prepayment penalty if you choose to pay it off sooner. But Noah brings up a good point. I didn't know that. Anything over $200,000 with the EIDL, you do need to give a personal guarantee. So that's,
if it's over $200,000. The vast majority of individuals will not need to have a personal guarantee for EIDL.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, so there's this Main Street lending program. It's a national program, and it's so these are loans to help small and medium-sized business through this pandemic, which are all the loans. So what is it? It's if you had sound financial condition, meaning you made money or you weren't super negative in 2019, before the crisis, or maybe the beginning of this year, the first month or two, but you need help with financing or funding, you could possibly qualify for this loan. It's a 5-year loan. There's floating rates, meaning the rate is not fixed, and the loan range is, it's pretty large, 250 to 300 million. All right. So it is not a forgivable loan at all. It's zero forgiven and zero, it's not a grant. So how it works is the lender will fund you, like your lender, if they decide to sign up, will fund you. And then the Federal Reserve in Boston, apparently it's not all of them, it's just this one in Boston currently, they'll essentially take the money out of their Federal Reserve building and give it to the bank at 95%. So if you take out, you can't take out 100, but let's just say you took out a $300,000 loan. 5% of 300,000 is 15,000. So that means the feds in Boston will take your 300,000 minus 15,000, 285, and they'll give it back, give that money to the bank, and then the bank is only liable for 15 grand. And if you want to know why that is, we should talk later, because I have no idea. Maybe we can figure it out together. But there's 3 different types of loans. This is what I showed on Wednesday. And we're not going to go into super detail about this because it's a really weird chart, and I don't think they know what they're doing yet. But these are the 3 different types of loans. You can do a new loan, a priority loan, and an expanded loan. They all have different sizes. The first size is 250 to 35 million, 250 to 50 million, and then 10 million to 300 million. I don't think any of you need 300 million, but okay. So then it has this EBITDA calculation, which I know you don't probably know what that is, but that's interesting. And then what you really got to know is that the interest rate is adjustable on LIBOR, and LIBOR is the European index, plus 300 basis points. I don't know what the current LIBOR rate is, but it's probably pretty dang low. It's probably either 0, it's between probably negative something to positive 0.5. So if it's it's 300 basis points, that means you just add the number 3 to that. And then
0.31, Scott.
Huh?
Current LIBOR is 0.31.
0.31, there you go. So current LIBOR today, if you got this, thank you, Alan, if it's today, your rate would be 3.31. But the LIBOR, just like the prime, it fluctuates, doesn't stay stagnant. It may raise. So it's a really good rate. I'm not sure how, but it's only 5 years. So this is the chart and kind of how it works. There's this Federal Reserve in Boston. There's, I don't know how many Federal Reserves are there? 12 or 13? I think there's 12 or 13. There's something like that. So this is the chart of how they're doing it. There's a borrower, which is you apply, the lender approves it, and then somehow they talk to the feds and they buy most of the loan, which is kind of weird, but this is how it goes, okay? All right, there you go. That was fun.
There are currently 12 Federal Reserve districts.
12, thank you. There's 12 in the country. Okay. Well, there's only one that's doing the Main Street or buying whatever they're buying in the Main Street. Okay. So this is the loans I know about and Sunita knows about. Somebody else spoke the other day. They know about something in Santa Clara. Well, I know that the city of Sacramento is launching a $10 million loan fund, possibly in July, because that's the state fiscal. But they're all over the place. But this is specific to a direct lender. I didn't update this before the call, but apparently the best interest rate you can get is 1%. Not everyone gets 1%. There could be a fluctuation all the way up to like possibly prime plus 1, which is 4.25. So I apologize for saying that earlier, showing that to you earlier. But we haven't had anybody apply yet, so that's good. Possibly because you're not sure how to apply. Well, these are the 5 counties that we know about direct loan funds, and they have this money. It's not free money because these are nonprofits that are running these loan programs, and they need to pay their staff and pay their bills and stuff. So it is 3% loan plus $250 closing doc. So you can actually put that into the loan. So if you wanted a loan for $150, you would get about $145, and then the other fees would kind of just be eaten up based on this, and then it'd be $150 or real close. So there's 7 years. It's a great loan. It's a great company, and we are the filterer of the company, or filteree of the company. Sunita, me, and then our 50 advisors for the finance center, and then So what we need you to do is just email us at loans@asksbdc.com and send us all your financials, like your taxes and all this other good stuff. What I should have had on here, but I didn't. But that's the easiest way, so we could see if you actually qualify before we send you to the lender. All right, so this is the SBA update. Both of them are very passionate about what they do and what SBA is offering right now for this, 7A and 504 loan. Like if you were to get a loan today from now until September 27th, SBA would pay the principal and interest. So it's not a deferment; they just pay it, which is amazing. So you don't have to pay back; they just pay that for you, which I'm not sure has ever been done, but it's very awesome. If you need to call the disaster center, this is the number. If you need to email them, this is the number. If you were declined, but they sent you an email through EIDL that said, hey, you can reconsider, but you have to do this kind of stuff, and you're not sure how to do that, you can email us or call us, or you can email them right here, PDC recons@sba.gov. All right, so I'm going to throw it over to Heather and Noah, and they can give us an SBA update.
Sure. Thanks, Scott. Hi, everyone. So with respect to the Paycheck Protection Program, as Scott stated, that is scheduled to sunset on Tuesday. And just to emphasize the importance of you applying as soon as possible for that, the lending institution or intermediary or whomever you would plan on going through needs to obtain the SBA loan number through our electronic system prior to close of business on June 30th. So time is really of the essence. If you're considering that program, please don't wait. As Scott stated, as another portion of the CARES Act, Section 1112, that is the debt relief component. And what that actually covers is that all loans that are current in our SBA portfolio have the principal and interest automatically paid for a 6-month time frame. Any newly originated transactions will then have the principal, interest, and fees absorbed by SBA. So again, really a great program if you're considering any type of an expansion or purchasing a building, anything that you could think of where you need some capital. It's a great time to move forward with that. With respect to the economic injury disaster loans, we are still processing those. Still seeking additional employees if you are considering looking for additional opportunities with the federal government. Even on a temporary basis, we still are seeking assistance for that program. So that's about all I have. What do you got, Noah?
So I guess the only things I would kind of add to that are just a couple small bits of clarifications. You know, like Scott said, we had this new legislation that passed on the 5th, which impacted a lot of the items around loan forgiveness. And you know, and my discussion with business owners right now, like Scott said also, is that the context around loan forgiveness is that you're going to have a long period of time to apply for loan forgiveness. And right now, I don't even know if there's a single lender amongst the 5,400 different PPP lenders that is even accepting a loan forgiveness application yet. And most of the institutions, the lending institutions, are in the process of getting all of their questions answered from SBA before they open up their own application processes for people who've gotten PPP loans. So that's just the context around loan forgiveness. We're getting, you know, of course, a lot of questions about that because people have gotten to the end of their 8-week period and they want to apply right away. But when you do apply and get loan forgiveness, it includes any interest that may have accrued on that loan in the period of time since it was issued. And, you know, so yeah, that's the context. A couple of items, I guess, as they relate to some of the rules that or clarifications that have been put out. One is that borrowers can submit loan forgiveness applications before the end of their covered period. So a question that we were getting a lot is, do you have to wait for the end of an 8-week period to apply, or do you have to wait for the end of 24 weeks, even if you've maybe run out of funding, you know, before 24 weeks are up? And the answer is no, you can apply for a period that's shorter than the 24-week period. I don't know the exact mechanics of how that's going to be implemented by lenders, but that was a clarification that was put out in one of the IFRs that was released, the rules that was released. The other headline, you know, just to go a little bit into loan forgiveness, is the when people are looking at loan forgiveness, there's a lot of questions I've had with business owners that are worried about, you know, well, what if I've had to reduce the number of FTE employees at my business? Will I face loan forgiveness? And one of the things to keep in mind when you look at this process is that you could face loan forgiveness reductions, but it's only the way that you'll end up calculating it is the number of employees, your FTE reduction, after exemptions. And so all of the loan forgiveness processes have a lot of exemptions and flexibility baked into them for different circumstances. So if you had to fire an employee, if an employee rejected an offer to return back to work, if you couldn't find an employee that was qualified to fill a position, if you had to change your whole business model in order to comply with health guidance, including local health guidance, actually. You know, even county and city and state health guidance around your business. If you had basically employee reductions that were related to complying with health guidance, then all of those reductions will get backed out of any FTE reduction calculation that you might run into when you're going to apply for loan forgiveness. So those are kind of headline, updates and kind of fence posts around where we are with the loan forgiveness process. But like Scott said, also, it's early in the days of figuring out, what the mechanics of applying for this are. And as a business owner, you can't go in and apply right now. And my advice to business owners also is you don't necessarily even want to be the first applicant through the door when these processes open. You are going to maybe want to let institutions get all the kinks worked out and not necessarily be the beta tester on the loan forgiveness application processes with all the different lenders. You have the time to wait and let things settle and get squared away before rushing in that application.
All right, thank you very much, Noah. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
We have a comment here, Noah, that says, from Martin Lander, that says, "Thank you for the great assistance you have provided to all of us, Noah."
Oh, that's sweet.
That is sweet. He's a sweetie. He must really, he's gonna miss you the most, probably.
We're all going to miss him.
I know, we're all gonna miss him. We should celebrate his leaving. No, sure. All right. So we are Northern California SBDC, but we have this special number. It's 833-ASK-SBDC. You can call that. We've been getting, ever since like last couple weeks, we've been getting between 60 and 100 calls a day. We get to all of them same day. If you leave a voicemail, we pass it off to somebody else same day. So please call us. It's the easiest way to get a hold of us is if you call us. We have about 15 people on a call log. Then they're able to route and help you out. And if they don't, they'll get to Sunita or I, and we'll help out. You can also go to asksbdc.com. It's kind of an interactive website, or it's going to be soon, hopefully. They'll have these YouTubes on there, from the previous and whatnot. And then you can email us if you choose to email over calls, but we prefer that you call. And then also we have a great team in Sacramento. They work with the California Hispanic Chamber of Commerce's. Julian Canetti is the CEO. His team is led by Oscar Garcia and Edith Gomez. And what they do is they do exactly what we're doing today in English, all in Spanish. They can assist you. They have advisors that speak Spanish, and they can help you answer all the questions you have or may not have in Spanish, which is great. So we're going to get through these questions. We've already answered 30. Thanks mostly to Sunita. So thank you, Sunita. And then we're just going to answer as many as we can. I'm assuming we'll get a lot more as we keep going. So I'm reading lots of CPAs who feel the EIDL requirements are incredibly risky. Collateral guarantees, restrictions on owner disbursements, possible requirements for reviewed bookkeeping, and we are considering declining our loan because of this. Please comment. So if I were you, I wouldn't listen to your CPA, regardless of what they say, and I would take the money if you need the money. That's what I would say, but I'd like SBA to possibly chime in on this one.
Yeah, these are disaster loans that are intended to help a business stay in business and float through and make it through the disruptions to their operations. And if you need the funding, I agree with Scott in that respect that you should prioritize the health of your business. The specific circumstances of every business are different, and it is a loan with terms on it that I think it's good for folks to read. And we are getting a lot of servicing questions for the economic injury disaster loan now, because there are requirements around how you can use those funds, and in some cases you have to get prior permission from SBA to make certain changes with your business. I think that topic is one that I really want to wait and see what happens with our Office of Disaster Assistance, because most of the existing servicing guidelines and rules and restrictions, they come from our traditional disaster lending process and program, which normally is used for much smaller scale disasters. And I imagine there will be some, some streamlining or some, some adjustment in servicing for how those loans work. But, the loan agreement terms, are, I mean, people should review them before they agree with them and in some cases, I've worked with business owners as well that have decided to turn down funds because they didn't want to, maybe ask SBA for prior approval on moving the business or things to that effect. I don't know if you have, I mean, you might have a little more experience than I do, Heather, with, folks that might have servicing actions and what that's looked like for the economic injury disaster loans. I don't know if you have a perspective to share on that.
It's really interesting. I think with the agency's change and kind of redeploying specific personnel in our servicing areas, we've had some success with reaching out to our Fresno servicing center, as well as our Little Rock, Arkansas servicing center. So we're still trying to get main contacts at each of those facilities, and we will be forthcoming with that information once we can kind of solidify that.
Yeah, okay. That's the kind of, so like right now, like our local district office is working with a lot of folks that are going through the application process and may have run into denials. And at least at the San Francisco office, we've got, we've developed those relationships and contacts with our Office of Disaster Assistance. And we do the same thing on servicing questions for loans. So your local district offices are usually good locations to work with when you're having servicing questions, because so much is shifting right now. Even at the local side of the district office, we're rebuilding that as well and making sure that we can continue to provide that service to folks. And aside from that, I would say actually, it's probably a good idea to sit down with the SBDC and have a strategy discussion, and and evaluate whether the terms of the loan are so onerous that you should turn it down completely. But it's it's not something that I feel. I've worked with a lot of business owners that are very, very worried about those terms, and I don't know if I've seen those worries realized for past disasters that that folks have run into. But it really depends on a case-by-case basis with business owners.
All right, thanks. So there's a question, Noah, that actually has your name in it, which is weird. I must think you're the beholder of all the information. It says, per the EIDL, Noah, I've asked several people at SBA and Ask SBA, which is us, about implications of accepting the EIDL loan. I'm a single shareholder S Corp. What happens to the loan if the business fails and I go bankrupt, which is the worst case? If I close the business without bankruptcy, or if I sell the business and the loan goes with the sale, or worst case scenario, I die. This guy has 4 questions. So what happens to the EIDL loan? He wants to know everything, Noah, about the rest of his life.
If I disappear under mysterious circumstances, what happens with the loan? I think Heather would be a good one to help with this one as well. But if you sell the business, you need, from my understanding, you need to involve SBA and make sure we're informed, and that I think you might even need prior approval to transfer the loan during a sale with SBA. Because of these loans do not require a personal guarantee, unless it also depends on how big your EIDL loan is. But if your EIDL loan is under $200,000, it doesn't have a personal guarantee on it, which means that it stays with the business. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, Heather.
No, you're right. Actually, the UCC would come into play as well. So yeah. The assets of the business, anything over $25,000, there's a lien on business assets. So just to keep that in mind.
Right. So that lien might come into play if you go, if a business goes bankrupt, or if it closes even without bankruptcy. But a personal guarantee wouldn't come into play unless the loan was above $200,000.
Okay. All right, cool. So yeah, there's a bunch of questions about this. There's a bunch of questions regarding regarding this whole thing, and they keep asking why is it all different and why. I said because there's been different versions of it, like a bunch of them. They're asking like, is it collateral over 25 or over 200? Is it personal guarantee over 25 over 200? They're all, why am I calling SBDC? And they're telling me something different. Well, I told them because it changed a few times.
Right. And some of that had to do with, I mean, these were existing programs that were in place before the coronavirus situation, and so the CARES Act changed some provisions of these specific loans under our disaster programs. And for people who had a lot of experience with the SBA disaster programs, they had to, learn and implement this new legislation. So the CARES Act, for instance, specifically says for disaster loans under this program, you don't need a personal guarantee unless it's over $200,000. That's a significant change from how the disaster loan program works for our regular disasters. So, for instance, we just issued a disaster declaration for the fires in San Francisco, the fires that happened on the pier. And that's not a coronavirus, related disaster. It's not covered by the CARES Act, and you need a personal guarantee no matter what the size of the loan is for a disaster loan under that disaster. And that's how the program has normally historically worked. But because of the scale and the size of the national disaster related to the coronavirus situation, there were changes that were built into the CARE Act relating to those disaster programs.
All right, thanks. If you can't apply for loan forgiveness because the banks are not ready, will the employers have to continue to keep all the employee at the full FTE level? I think the answer is no. We are still experiencing lower levels of revenue, so without more PPP, we'll not be able to survive paying employees for full hours. So no, you don't need to. I mean, they just said that you had to get to, this is what's also tricky, is like, they said you had to get to the full FTE as it was saying before February 15th, but then they also said, so they're wondering if they have to keep these people, which they don't obviously, but if they got to that point, they just have to document it and then they're gonna have to let them go again, right? Is that what's gonna have to happen probably?
Yeah, the general process is there's two periods. You have a pre-disaster period and you have your covered period. And you have a comparison between those two time periods. And that is what is looked at for your FTE reductions under the PPP program. So basically you take an average over the pre-disaster period, and you compare that to the average over your post-disaster period, whether it's that 8-week time period or the 24-week time period or something in between.
And then you also have the safe harbor, comes into play as well. So if you're not able to bring everybody back because of the limitations that you have, government or county or city, then just document that and then you are less that FTE.
Yeah. Right. So yeah, it's that comparison between those two, your average FTE for the pre-disaster period and your average FTE after exemptions on that post-disaster period.
These are some dudes coming up.
What's that?
These are some really good ones coming up here.
Yeah, these questions?
Taxation questions, they're my favorite questions.
Oh boy.
I don't have to answer them. That's why they're my favorite ones.
Yeah.
We're not allowed to. I mean, in the sense that I can't give tax advice about that if you have questions about, taxation of funds and things like that, you have to kind of talk with a CPA or an accountant in that respect.
And then I can make up a bunch of cool stuff too if you want to talk to me about it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. No? Yeah. All right. So
I guess there is also the IRS,
you could call it IRS, but they're probably like super
well, there's like an IRS policy document that was released about the treatment of, I think, EIDL and PPP funds, which, I can just share that, but it's a little dense. But it's, we can kind of point people to stuff that's on the IRS website, but we can't interpret it. We can't kind of parse it.
I'll send it out to everyone there. Thank you.
Sure.
All right, cool. So, Noah, this is a great question. EIDL with less than $200,000. If a business closes or files for bankruptcy, is the business still required to pay the remainder of the loan back to SBA? The business is, right, but not the person, because it's under 200. There's no personal guarantee.
There's no personal guarantee.
No, I know. What about the business? Does the business have to?
Yeah, I mean, it's an obligation on the business, and it has a UCC. Yeah, it has a collateral, has a lien against it, and yeah, absolutely, the business has an obligation to pay back the loan.
Okay, Richard Strezzo, you need to call us because you have a very specific question. Oh no, what happened to my computer? All right, you have a very, all right, I lost my mouse. Very specific question, Richard Strezzo, and you got to call us, okay? All right. Okay, can you explain the limits of distribution of assets clause? Are we not allowed to transfer funds to owners without SBA approval if you accept the EIDL? If you get a grant from, say, Facebook or Salesforce, as they were offering small business grants, do you have to give this money to SBA towards your EIDL loan?
These are separate questions. Okay, I see it up at the top now.
Yeah.
Okay, so those are two questions, two totally separate. So the answer to your second question is no. No, you don't have to. I mean, the EIDL loan is a loan that has to be paid back, just like you would a credit card, or any other loan that you might have. And if you got a grant from another source, that's not, like especially a grant that's not a federal source or anything like that. That doesn't interact with our EIDL program. The first question is another one. I got a question similar to that this morning because there is a under the EIDL program, giving out bonuses to shareholders is not by default allowed. It's not a allowable expense into the economic injury disaster loan program, at least not without prior approval. So that could impact your EIDL funds. The way to think about the EIDL loan is the purpose of this program is to pay for expenses that otherwise would have been able to be made by a business, but not for this disaster. It's not there to make up for lost opportunity or lost profits. It's there to make sure that the business can keep the lights on, can keep making their inventory expenses, then can keep payroll going, can keep operations running. I think, with EIDL funds, the way to prioritize, it's a working capital loan. The way to prioritize those funds is towards things that you need to keep the business running. And for that first question, I think the answer is maybe a yes. I don't know, Heather, if you have anything to add on top of that.
No, I mean, I would just say with the UCC, that's a specific point in time that the assets are secured. And if there is a distribution of those assets depending on how that is, SBA could come back and say, wait a minute, there was supposed to be a lien on those assets. So
Yeah.
it would be in your best interest to communicate with our servicing center if you're planning on doing anything along those lines. So, you know, I would also just kind of point out that these programs are meant to help you as business owners. This is not meant to be kind of a got you type of mentality. So, you know, the more forthright and forthcoming you are with our servicing center, it's definitely in your best interest. So don't feel like, you know, you're not going to be able to manage your business or sell any of your assets or do anything. All I'm saying is just communicate what you're trying to do, and then we will advise you appropriately.
Yeah, they're not. Yes, these aren't for-profit, you know, loans where, you know, the expectation is to, you know, maximize a return on a loan in any way, or yeah, they're all given out under the same kind of mission and vision of keeping businesses in place and in operational or rebuilding as quickly as possible to support general economic growth.
Well said.
All right, Catherine Matson, you asked like so many questions. I wonder if you're related. Is that Troy, like in disguise? Is it Troy Matson? Like, what's going on, Catherine? You're killing me with all these questions. You should just call us. We could chit chat for like hours, okay? So you start earning interest right away on the EIDL, and the first payment, Catherine, is due. I'll just answer it live. Sorry. I don't know why I'm typing it. First payment is due the first of the 12th month. Somebody's asking, is this loan tax-free? Well, I don't know. What loan? What loan? May Reed, McGreevy, what loan?
The PPP or I mean, we have the guidance from the IRS that we kind of put in the, you know, we usually don't give tax advice from the SBA about, you know, how things are treated. That's a question for accountant or CPA, but, you know, it can also point you towards that policy document that was released by the IRS about PPP funds. I think EIDL funds are also mentioned in there, but definitely PPP funds are discussed.
All right. Okay, Jolyn. I'm working with a startup that has been offered EIDL at $33,000, but lacking identity verification. I'm worried they will be denied as all three founders are non-U.S. citizens. Applicant and founder has an O visa holder. They're a visa holder with a Social Security for tax purposes, not for credit purposes. As EIDL is tied to personal credit, I'm afraid he will be denied. Can he transfer the application to one of his U.S. investors who is a U.S. citizen with great credit and who owns 14% of the company? Should he accept the 33 amount and deal with the identity verification later? Should he email you at SFO?
I guess there's a few different items on that. One is, it sounds like they already got a loan offer, which means that a certain level of underwriting was already done by our Office of Disaster Assistance. And our Office of Disaster Assistance is the office that determines eligibility. So they're the kind of final say in who is eligible for the program and who's not. So that's kind of the broader context, you know, if they've been, and it depends if they're at that point, because the way the economic injury disaster loan process works is you do get an offer where you have an amount and there's a little slider that you can increase or decrease. And after you've accepted what that offer is, it goes through an additional level of underwriting. And then you get a loan document that you can sign. So if you're at the point where you have a loan document, that means all the underwriting has essentially been done on that loan, and the Office of Disaster Assistance has made their evaluation around eligibility. And then in terms of transferring it to a different owner, you know, I think that's pretty complicated, and probably wouldn't be able to be done. But the programs are, you know, the economic injury disaster loan programs, are open to individuals with green cards and certain visas. So, it's not, Heather, I don't know if you've had some, I think, research and some conversations around visas and eligibility as well. So I don't know if you'd have anything else to add on to that.
Exactly. So yes, green card recipients, citizens, totally fine. We've had a couple of applicants with an E2 visa come to find out that that is not eligible according to our disaster program. However, it is eligible under our 7A program. So we are doing some research internally on that one because there, is this conflict. Anyway, that still remains to be seen which way we're going to go on that. But apply, no harm, no foul. Call us,
Right.
We can help.
And the Office of Disaster Assistance makes eligibility determinations at the end of the day. So, we can kind of sit here and be like, yeah, that's possible, that's not possible. Heather and I can kind of, pitch possibilities all day, but the people who make determinations are the underwriters in the Office of Disaster Assistance.
All right, just answering some of these questions through email. Just tell them to email us. All right, Noah. All right, somebody says they're on a call to SBA 800 line. They said the idle max was 150. So if someone received 150 when it was the max, they can now go back and ask for more. No, they can't, right? Because
that's, so the $150,000 max, I think that's, our Office of Disaster Assistance hasn't come out officially and said that they are capping all loans at $150,000. I don't think that is official policy still. It's kind of unofficial official policy in the sense that, when people have been talking with our Office of Disaster Assistance folks, I know that they are limiting loan sizes. It's in some cases, I have seen loans above $150,000 still be approved. The maximum that a loan could go up to under this program is $2 million. That's still the case. But that office kind of, I believe as a general policy, has that cap in place when they're working with applicants at this time. If you wanted to go back and ask for additional funds, you have to put in a request for reconsideration. And you can have a request for reconsideration even after you've accepted loan funds. I can't really speak to the likelihood or the availability of funding or timelines for getting additional funding from this program, just because the scale and scope of it is pretty significant for this situation. And under past disasters, like if we were talking about like the California fires last year or something like that, the way it would work is, maybe you got your disaster assistance loan right away, or relatively quickly, and then as you discovered maybe you had greater need than you originally knew you had, you could go back and ask for additional funding up to 2 years, I think, even after the end of the disaster. Is that right, Heather?
Yeah, 2 years.
Yeah. So that's the way the traditional disaster loan program works. For the coronavirus situation, I don't know how available that particular process and mechanism will be for applicants, just because of the amount of demand on this program and the scale of the situation.
all right. So we've answered 79 questions. There's only one left. I answered it, but he or she didn't like the answer. So they received $1,000, which I think was in advance. And then they also received paperwork that says they have to pay $5 a month for the next 30 years, which I'm assuming is like a really little loan, like $1,000 loan.
Yeah.
Which she wants to know. Yeah, so he or she, wants to know, If so yeah, the $1,000 that's deposited in your bank account, if it says SBA for disaster, then yes, that's the advance. You get to keep that, don't have to pay it back. The other one is the actual loan. So
yeah, what gets directly deposited, like the advance, you don't sign anything, you don't agree to any paperwork, it just shows up in your bank account. Of the loan, you have to go into the website, you have to sign a loan agreement document, and it has an amount on it, and that is an amount that you have to pay back in full, you know, at the interest rate, at the 3.75% interest rate over 30 years.
all right, look at that. Answered it right this time. We did not get an idle advance. Do you know why?
Yeah, so I've gotten we've been working with a lot of business owners where this has been the case. This is a known issue from the Office of Disaster Assistance, that some business owners did not get an idle advance deposited. And the work that I've been doing with business owners, in some cases, when a business owner is filling out the original application, they didn't check the box asking for an idle advance. But then there's also an entire another set of circumstances in which the banking information that was provided, it wasn't able to be processed by the Office of Disaster Assistance. And the Office of Disaster Assistance has been sending out emails to folks who didn't get the advance, asking them to re-enter their banking information in some cases. So, you know, there's from our local district office, we can't necessarily resolve that situation directly. The most that I've been able to do is kind of let folks know whether when they filled out the original application, whether they had checked that box or not. But making modifications to an application to change the amount of the advance isn't something that our office has been able to do.
All right, sounds good. So we've answered 85. We got one more. We got an idle advance deposited and have not received any emails after for the loan. How do we find out how much we're approved for?
Yeah, so the general process is that you put in the application at SBA.gov, you wait because there's so many applications, and then you wake up one morning and you see that deposit straight in your bank account. And that deposit is anywhere between $1,000 and $10,000, depending on how many employees you put on the application. And after you've received that deposit, you wait again, because after the advance has been processed, it goes through some initial underwriting and credit checks. And when the Office of Disaster Assistance makes a determination about whether to offer a loan or not offer a loan, it's at that point that you get an email. And the email, if it's a denial, it should include a reason for that denial, as well as steps for asking for reconsideration. And if it's an approval, it's an invitation to create an account and review the size of that loan offer. And once you've reviewed the loan offer and accepted it, then it goes to one additional step of underwriting. And then you'll get a follow-up asking you to sign loan documents. After you've signed the loan documents, you get a direct deposit in your bank account for the full amount of the loan in one lump sum. How long that whole process takes is it really depends on the application, and it's been pretty variable. We don't have an official kind of timeline from our Office of Disaster Assistance about what the average time is right now, but it's not days, that's for sure, for between putting in the application and getting a loan put back, right? And it's in the weeks, in some cases months, in some cases.
All right, cool. So what are the steps to ask for more money before? So what are the steps to ask for more money before you approve the loan? So if they got like an idle offer? How do they ask for more money? They just email them, or they call you? How do they do this?
Yeah, so if you would like the amount of the loan to be shifted or changed before you accept it, it is easier to make those changes before you've fully accepted a loan. After you've fully accepted a loan, you have to go through, you have to email, you have to ask for a reconsideration and, and go through a totally separate process. Before you've accepted a loan, it's a matter of calling the 1-800 number and trying to get a loan officer, if possible, on the line, or you can also, in some cases, reach out to the local district office and ask us to connect you with the Office of Disaster Assistance. Whether that loan increase will be approved or not, I think it really depends on the circumstances of what your situation is. If it's if it's related to like a mistake on the application, sometimes that can be corrected. In some cases where, the most frequent case I've worked with business owners is they're asking to revise the numbers that they put in for COGS and revenue on their original application. And I don't know if I've in some cases, the Office of Disaster Assistance is working with that. In some cases, they're not allowing adjustments to be made on those original applications that were submitted. I don't know if you have a different experience, Heather.
No, actually, we have seen a lot of cost of goods sold being the same as the revenue. And so therefore, we're getting the result of these businesses being offered $1,000. And clearly it's an error. We recommend that you reach out to your district office, to us, and we will try to assist to the best of our ability. With respect to reaching out to the disaster center, as Noah stated, it's definitely an option for you. It's just, I think, a longer process. But if we can pull up the loan and find that your cost of goods sold is the exact same that you're showing as your revenue, clearly that's an error, and we want to help you. So.
All right. So we don't have any more questions. We answered 91. Oh my gosh, what is Christine Shavrovsky wants to know what the phone number is for the district office. Do I give it to her?
2 different offices. So Sacramento District Office, if you want to call us, is 916-735-1700.
Call Heather, she has staff. No, the San Francisco district office is 415-744-6820.
Look at that. Alan went he went for all for you, man. Good job. Goodbye. Good luck, Noah.
Yeah, thanks for all the fish.
I don't know how you did that.
Because I'm Zoom God. Well, what else would you expect from me?
He's the Zoom god, yeah.
He's got a background for every situation, man.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is the last time that we are going to have Noah on any of our events. Noah, from the bottom of my heart, you've been wonderful to work with. We sincerely appreciate all of your communications and your willingness to help and go above and beyond and just always smile, and we're really, really going to miss you.
Oh, thank you, Heather. I appreciate it. I was really happy that this is, number 35. We ended on the webinar number 35. I feel like a nice round number. This is definitely like a good series finale number for me to go.
There you go.
This is really nice. I'm really glad this got to be my last presentation.
I don't think you're
in your next endeavor.
Someone's asked us to type the SFO district phone number.
It's in the chat.
Okay.
So I'll put it. So you say it. I'll type it into chat.
I'll put it in the chat.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You want to make sure for everybody, Sunita?
Yes, I got that, Alan.
You're not going to have as much fun as you did here at HUD. You're going to be bored. You should call me. You should have your partner call me if you're bored. Hey, Scott, no, it was really boring. You need some laughter. So just call
Yeah.
me, text me. Yeah.
Hey, in between, in between my time, I'm gonna just hop on these calls. I hope you know. I'm gonna ask them I know the hard questions to ask, Scott. I want you to know I'm gonna sign in as an attendee, and I'm just gonna.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's funny stuff.
And please put his name first. So question to Scott.
Absolutely, yeah.
That way I won't
And
answer
Scott be the one to answer the ones that are unanswerable.
Yeah.
All right. Did you see this one? Misha said, no, I've attended multiple sessions partly because of you. You are great for explaining the complex and simple terms. I will miss your presence. The best to you. HUD is very lucky. Look at that.
Amen.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It has been fun. Hopefully I get your text message, your text, your cell phone text, whatever. So I can
I'll
text.
text you my deets.
All right. Well, that'd be cool. Because I like to, give you a hard time. But yeah, it's been a blast to work with you. And even though you're a stickler on the compliance part, even though like super stickler, I'm not going to miss that at all, man. Put me through the ringer last year. But I will say it's been fun. And I also like the challenge of you not giving me the phone numbers on those loans, Wink, wink. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't do that.
Yeah, you don't do that. I don't know what Kathy Jensen's asking. Can you update your idle? What does that mean?
Can you modify the application that you put in or the
Yeah.
amount that?
We just went over that, Kathy. If you didn't catch it, you can always review this again on SBDC.com. It replays there. I believe it should be on Monday or Tuesday.
It'll be up later on this afternoon. They take a bit of time, but yeah. All righty. Well, I think that's it for the moment. Otherwise, we're just going to have people putting in more questions saying how wonderful Noah is, and that's just going to go to his head and he won't leave, and the whole thing's going to go to hell. Noah, thank you very much. Great to know you. Thanks, everybody else.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Noah. We'll see
Happy
you.
weekend.
Have a great weekend, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.